In the endless dark of space, a massive alien ship drifted silent and cold. Its surface shone with strange symbols that no one understood. For centuries it had been there, watching the stars, refusing all who came close. Civilizations had begged for help, sending pleas through radio waves and light signals. Armies had fired weapons, trying to break it open. Explorers had knocked on its surface like children before a locked door. But the answer was always the same, nothing, no reaction. It was as if the ship had one word for the universe. And that word was no. The galaxy had given it a name. They called it the Gate of No, a warning, a curse, and a mystery. No one dared to approach it anymore. Too many lives had been lost trying to force a response. Entire fleets had vanished when they pushed too close. Some said the ship swallowed them whole. Others said it erased them from time itself. Whatever the truth, fear kept most species away. Only whispers remained, carried like ghost stories from one generation to the next. Then came the humans. They were young compared to the great alien races. Their ships were smaller, their technology newer. But they were different. Unlike others, they saw the Gate of No not as a tomb, but as a challenge. When the human ship Odyssey entered the sector, many alien observers laughed. They will be destroyed like the rest, some said. They are fools, said others. Yet in secret they watched, their eyes on the humans who dared to go where none had returned. Inside the Odyssey, tension filled the air. Captain Elias stood at the command deck, staring at the alien ship through the wide glass screen. It filled the view like a floating city. Ancient and unshakable, his crew whispered in low voices. It doesn't move, one said. It doesn't even see us. Another added. But then the lights began to change. Strange patterns glowed on the alien hull, spreading like fire across its surface. The crew froze. No one dared to breathe. A deep sound filled the ship, not through speakers, not through air, but inside their heads, a voice unlike any they had ever known. It was both mechanical and alive, old and endless. It spoke one word, and the word shook every soul aboard. Humans. The crew stared at each other in shock. The Gate of No had never answered anyone before. Did it just speak? Whispered Mara, the navigator. Her hands trembled on the controls. It knows who we are, said Dr. Kane, his voice breaking with awe. Captain Elias kept his eyes on the glowing patterns. Steady, he ordered. We're not running. Not yet, the voice came again. You stand where all others failed, it said. The answer has been no, always no. The crew waited. Hearts pounding. Why us? Asked Elias, his voice strong, though his chest tightened. Why speak now? The ship seemed to breathe, a slow hum that made the glass shake. Because you do not beg, because you do not kneel. You come with fire in your hearts. The crew exchanged nervous glances. It's testing us, Mara whispered. It thinks we're different. Dr. Kane leaned forward. Maybe it will finally say yes. But Elias shook his head, his eyes sharp. No, it hasn't promised anything. We are standing at the door of a giant that doesn't open easily. The alien ship grew brighter, its surface shifting. A gate began to form, glowing like molten metal. The Odyssey's alarms screamed as energy waves crashed over it. Shields are dropping, shouted Lieutenant Ray. We can't hold this for long. Sparks flew from the panels. The deck shook under their feet, but Elias stood firm. Hold the line, he commanded. Do not retreat. The crew obeyed, fear mixing with determination. Outside, the gate on the alien ship widened. Darkness poured out like smoke. Swallowing the stars, the voice spoke once more. This time sharper. If you enter, you face trial. If you flee, you are forgotten. The silence after was heavier than the sound itself. The crew stared at Elias, waiting, hoping. Some wanted to turn back, to escape before it was too late, but Elias clenched his fists. We didn't come this far to run, he said. His voice carried across the deck like steel. Send the signal. Tell it we accept. For a moment, the ship was silent again. Then the voice returned, lower, almost amused. So it begins, it said. The gate opened wide, light spilling into the void. The Odyssey's engines roared as it moved forward, swallowed by the alien maw. Beyond lay only mystery and trials no race had ever survived. Yet in that moment, with fear and courage mixed as one, humanity stepped where all others had failed. The galaxy watched, holding its breath. For the gate of no had finally spoken, and its silence was broken. The Odyssey trembled as it passed through the glowing gate. Light flooded the windows. So bright the crew shielded their eyes. Then in an instant, the light was gone outside the ship. There was no star, no planet, only a vast storm of clouds. They were inside the alien ship, yet it felt like they had been dropped into another world. The clouds swirled like living things. Lightning cracked across the endless sky, and dark shapes moved in the mist. "Where are we?" Mara whispered, her hands frozen above the controls. The readings on her screen spun wildly, giving no answers. "It's not space. It's not even real," muttered Dr. Kane, his forehead damp with sweat. "We're inside a test," Captain Elias said firmly. His voice steady, though his chest felt heavy. It warned us. This is the trial. A low growl rumbled through the mist. It came from everywhere and nowhere. The crew peered through the glass, and a shadow moved, massive. Sharp and fast, then another shadow followed. The lightning lit their forms for a split second, and gasps filled the deck, creatures tall as buildings, with teeth like blades and eyes glowing red. "Monsters," whispered Lieutenant Ray, his face pale. "They're hunting us!" The ship shook as something slammed against its hull. Metal screamed, alarms blared. "Shields dropping," shouted Mara. "If they keep hitting, we won't last." Sparks rained down from the ceiling as panels burst. Idias gritted his teeth. "Weapons online." Ray's hands flew over the console. Laser fire shot into the storm. The beams cut through one creature, making it howl in rage. But another leapt from the mist and struck the ship again. The Odyssey spun, warning lights flaring red across every screen. "We can't fight them all," Mara cried. "They're endless. Then we don't fight them all," Elias replied sharply. "We outsmart them." He leaned forward, his eyes locked on the storm outside. "Humans survive not because we're strongest, but because we adapt, we think. We fight together," Dr. Kane's voice cracked. "But how do you fight shadows?" The captain pointed to the lightning, tearing across the sky. "Not shadows, storms. They're hiding in the storm. That means the storm feeds them." His plan sparked in Mara's mind at once. "If we overload the engines, release energy into the air, maybe we can turn the storm against them." Ray shook his head. "That could fry us too." Elias didn't hesitate. "Better to risk everything than to wait for death." He turned. "Do it." The crew worked in silence, their faces pale but their hands steady. The Odyssey groaned as the engines overloaded. Glowing with heat, the storm outside began to twist. Lightning striking closer and harder, the creatures roared, their glowing eyes blinking with sudden confusion. Then the storm turned violent, winds howled, lightning split open the sky, and the monsters were caught in the chaos. Some were burned, others ripped apart by violent bursts of energy. The Odyssey shook like a toy in a child's fist. "Hold it together," Elias shouted. Sparks flew, alarms wailed, but the ship survived. The storm tore itself apart, the clouds breaking into light. Slowly the chaos faded, silence returned, and the Odyssey drifted in calm air. The crew collapsed into their seats. Breathing hard, Mara wiped sweat from her forehead. "We're alive," she whispered. Dr. Kane laughed weakly. "No one has ever made it through." Elias looked around at his people, their faces marked by fear but lit with pride. "Remember this moment," he said quietly. "This is why we're here, to prove what humans can do before they could rest." The voice returned, echoing in their skulls. "You endured," it said. This time the tone was different, not cold, but almost uncertain. "You bled, you risked, you adapted." Elias lifted his chin. "We are human. That's what we do." There was silence. Then the voice spoke again. "All others begged for mercy. All others cursed when denied. You ask for trial and walk into death with laughter." The crew glanced at each other, confused. "Did it just praise us?" Ray asked. His voice was half disbelief. Our fear, the ship around them shifted. The sky cracked open, showing another gate. Glowing brighter than before, the voice rumbled again. Louder now. "If you dare, step forward. For the path ahead breaks all who walk it. Elias clenched his fist. Set course. Mara hesitated. Captain, if this is only the first trial, what's next? Elias gave a small smile, though his eyes were heavy. Whatever it is, it will see who we are. His words rang like steel through the silent deck. The Odyssey turned, its engines burning bright. The gate widened before them, waiting. The galaxy outside listened, unable to believe what they were seeing. For the first time, the gate of No had given more than silence. It had given a challenge, and humanity had answered with fire. As the Odyssey entered the second gate, the storm world faded into darkness. The voice whispered one last time, soft and low. Perhaps, after all this time, I've found the ones who do not fear No. The Odyssey slid through the glowing gate, and suddenly the stars returned. But they were not the stars the crew knew. They hung in strange patterns, twisted as if someone had pulled the sky apart and stitched it back wrong. The ship floated in a void that felt alive. A heavy silence pressed against the glass, and even the hum of their own engines sounded too loud. What is this place? Mara whispered. Her eyes scanned the screens, but every reading spun like broken wheels. We're nowhere, she muttered, or everywhere at once. Dr. Kane leaned close to the window, his breath fogging the glass. It feels wrong. The laws of space are bending here. Before Elias could reply, the voice thundered in their heads again. The first storm tested your will, now I test your mind. For strength is nothing without wisdom. The words hung like chains, and the crew felt them tighten around their thoughts. Shapes appeared in the void, glowing fragments that twisted into patterns. They moved like puzzles in the sky, endless pieces shifting and spinning. It's building something, Ray said nervously. Or it's asking us to solve it. Elias stared hard, his voice steady. This is a test. We're meant to find the answer. Suddenly the ship lurched, panels flickered, lights died. Then, without warning, Mara screamed, "The controls are gone! It's flying itself!" The Odyssey tilted, thrown toward the puzzle of glowing fragments. The crew gripped their chairs as the ship spun faster. A bright shape flashed ahead. 2 glowing paths, one red and one blue. "Which way?" shouted Ray. "Captain, we don't have time!" Elias clenched his jaw. His gut told him this was not about speed but choice. "Red leads to destruction, blue leads to survival," said the voice. "But truth may hide where no light shines." Elias closed his eyes for a breath, then barked, "Neither cut engines, hold position!" The crew gasped. "Captain, we'll crash," Mara cried. "Do it," Elias ordered, his voice sharp like a blade. Ray's hands shook, but he obeyed. The ship shuddered to a halt, hanging in the void. The 2 glowing paths pulsed brighter, then flickered and shattered like glass. A third path appeared in the darkness, hidden until now, a narrow tunnel of light. "You chose to see beyond," the voice rumbled. "Few races ever stopped to think. Most ran like frightened prey." The Odyssey drifted forward, sliding into the narrow tunnel as they passed. The fragments around them reformed, twisting into the shapes of faces. Thousands of alien faces, their eyes empty, their mouths open in silent screams. Dr. Kane shivered. "These are the ones who failed." Elias kept his eyes forward. "And now they are warnings." The tunnel stretched endlessly. Then, without warning, the ship dropped into a vast chamber of stars. At its center floated a sphere, black as a hole, but dripping with veins of light. It pulsed like a heart. The crew stared, a chill crawling through their bones. "What is that?" Mara asked in a whisper. The voice answered at once. "The core of judgment. To reach me, you must face what you fear most. Not storms, not monsters, but yourselves." The black sphere pulsed, and suddenly the glass darkened. Each crew member saw something different. Elias froze as his father's voice filled the air. "You are weak. You always fail. You will lead them to death." Mara gasped as her screen showed her brother drowning. Screaming her name, Ray fell to his knees, hands clutching his head. "They're gone. They're all gone because of me." Dr. Kane clawed at his chest, crying out, "I can't save them. I never saved them." Their own fears turned against them, the ship filled with echoes of pain. Shadows twisting into claws, Elias staggered. but forced himself to stand tall. "Listen to me," he shouted. His voice broke through the storm of illusions. "It's not real, do you hear me? None of it is real." The shadows closed in. The voices grew louder. Mara screamed. Ray curled into a ball. Elias roared, "We fight together. We don't bow to ghosts." He slammed his fist against the control panel. Sparks burst. The illusions flickered. "You're not real," he growled. His crew, hearing the steel in his voice, clung to his strength. Mara rose, shaking. "He's right. This isn't real." She tore her eyes from the drowning image. "It's lies." Ray lifted his head, his tears drying. "Not real," he whispered. "Not real," Dr. Kane gasped, then steadied himself. "We are stronger than fear, together." Their voices rose, defying the shadows. "Not real," they shouted. "Not real." The illusions cracked. The black sphere trembled. A scream ripped through the void. Not human, not alien, but ancient and furious. Then silence. The illusions shattered like broken glass. The crew collapsed back into their seats, sweat pouring, chests heaving. The sphere dissolved into light. And the voice spoke again, softer this time. "You faced the storm of your own souls and did not fall. You are unlike the others. Perhaps you are what I have waited for." Elias straightened, his face pale but proud. "We are human. We don't run from fear. We fight through it." The silence that followed felt different, less cold, more thoughtful. The tunnel ahead opened once more, brighter than before, as the Odyssey drifted forward. Mara whispered, "Captain, how much harder will this get?" Elias placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "Hard enough to break us if we let it, but deep inside..." He knew something the others did not. The trials were no longer just tests. They were awakening something inside the ancient ship itself. And for the first time in countless ages, the Gate of No was beginning to doubt its own word. The Odyssey drifted through the tunnel of light, its engines humming low. The crew sat in silence, their faces pale after what they had just endured. The storm of fear still clung to their minds, shadows of voices and visions refusing to leave. Mara rubbed her temples, whispering, "It felt so real," Ray muttered. "I could still hear them screaming." Dr. Kane's hands shook as he tried to steady his breath. "It wanted to break us from the inside." Captain Elias stood tall at the command deck, his eyes locked forward. "It failed," he said. His voice was steady, sharp like steel. "We are still here and we're still moving forward. But deep inside, even he felt the weight of what they had faced. The Gate of No was no simple machine. It was alive in ways none of them understood. The tunnel widened into a vast chamber, unlike anything they had seen before. Massive walls of shifting stone floated in the air, forming shapes that looked like ruins of cities. Broken towers spun slowly, glowing with faint blue light. "It looks like a graveyard," Mara whispered. "Not just for ships, but for worlds." Dr. Kane leaned closer to the glass, his voice low. "These are memories, echoes of what came before. The test is showing us its past." The voice thundered again, shaking the ship. "Long ago we were builders, guardians of the stars. We gave knowledge, we gave power. But they grew weak. They begged for more. They forgot struggle, so we closed the gates. We said no." The words rolled like thunder, each syllable heavy with age and anger. Elias frowned. "You tested them and they failed, so you abandoned them all." The voice rumbled in reply. "Mercy makes weakness. Only those who suffer grow strong. That is why all must face trials. That is why I answer no," Mara whispered under her breath. "It doesn't understand us." Elias's eyes narrowed. "Maybe it's the one that doesn't understand." His voice grew louder. "We humans don't ask for mercy. We fight because life has never been easy. Struggle is part of us." The chamber shook as if the ship itself was unsettled. The broken towers spun faster, collapsing into new shapes. A battlefield formed before their eyes, giant alien warriors clashing with weapons of fire. "It's showing us," Kane whispered. "The wars of the ancients." Thousands of ships exploded in silence, armies wiped away in bursts of light. The Guardian ship had watched it all. The crew stared in awe, feeling the weight of history pressing down on them. Suddenly the battlefield froze. All the alien warriors turned their glowing eyes toward the Odyssey. Their faces twisted into rage, and one by one they began to move. "They're coming!" Ray shouted. "Weapons!" Now, the battlefield of ghosts came alive. Armies charged toward the Odyssey. Though they were not flesh, but something worse, echoes of hatred given form, the ship shook as the first wave struck. Energy tore at their shields. "Direct hit!" Mara cried. "Shields down to 40%. Ray fired lasers into the mass. The beams passed through some, but shattered others into sparks. Still, the army pressed closer. "We can't kill ghosts," he shouted. Elias stood firm. "Then we don't fight like them. This is not about weapons. This is about proving who we are." His mind raced. He thought of the voice's words, "Mercy makes weakness. Trials bring strength." The test wanted them to fight as the ancients had. But Elias refused. He raised his voice. "Stop firing. Hold all weapons." The crew turned in shock. "Captain, they'll destroy us," Mara cried. Elias shook his head. "No, this isn't a battle, it's a lesson. If we fight like they did, we fail like they did." He stepped closer to the glass. His voice hard and clear. "We will not repeat their war. We will not fight shadows." The armies of ghosts drew near, fire blazing in their hands. Then the Odyssey fell still. Shields down, weapons silent. The crew held their breath, bracing for impact. But just before the army struck, the entire battlefield dissolved into dust. The echoes vanished, leaving only silence. The voice returned louder than ever. "You refuse battle, yet you survive. You do not fight like the ancients. You walk a new path." Elias lifted his chin. "Because we are not them. We don't seek to be given everything. We take nothing for free. We earn it, even if it kills us." The chamber cracked open, and a bright gate formed at the far end. The ruins collapsed into dust, drawn into the void. The voice spoke one last time, quieter now, almost thoughtful. "Perhaps after ages of silence, I have found the ones who understand." The Odyssey moved forward, engines burning slow and steady. Mara let out a long breath. "Captain, I thought we were finished." Ray laughed nervously. "I thought we were ghosts." Kane's voice was trembling but filled with awe. "It's not just testing us anymore, it's watching us, learning from us." Elias kept his eyes on the light ahead, his heart heavy but steady. "Then we'll keep showing it who we are. If this ship wants to know humanity, we'll give it our truth." The crew nodded, fear mixing with pride. They had faced storms, monsters, fears, and ghosts, yet still they stood. The Odyssey entered the new gate, swallowed by light once more. Behind them the graveyard of worlds faded. Ahead lay the unknown, and with it the next trial. But this time, for the first time, the Guardian ship hesitated. Its ancient certainty of no began to crack. And in the silence of the void, the galaxy itself seemed to lean closer, waiting for what humanity would do next. The Odyssey burst through the gate and was thrown into a place unlike any before. The crew clung to their seats as the ship spun, alarms screaming. Then suddenly, silence. Outside, the stars blazed bright, but their light twisted and bent. It was as if the entire sky was collapsing into itself. A massive star loomed ahead, its surface boiling with fire. Waves of energy rolled out like tidal storms, and the pull of its gravity began to drag the Odyssey closer. "Captain, it's a dying star," Mara cried. Her fingers flew over the controls. "We're caught in its pull. If we don't break free, we'll burn." Ray's voice cracked with panic. "Engines at full, but we're still sliding. It's too strong." Dr. Kane's face was pale. "This isn't an accident. This is the trial." Elias stood tall, his eyes locked on the firestorm ahead. "The ship wants to see if we'll survive the impossible." The Odyssey shook violently. Flames licked across the windows, warning lights flashing red. The smell of burning circuits filled the air. "Shields are breaking down," Mara shouted. "We can't last more than minutes." The crew exchanged fearful looks. The dying star roared louder, its light burning like a scream. The voice filled their heads again, colder than before. "Strength, wisdom, refusal of war? You have shown much, but now comes the end. Will you endure death itself?" Elias gritted his teeth. "We're not done yet." He turned to his crew. Ideas! Now, Ray's hand shook over the console. We could ride the gravity, slingshot around it. But one mistake and we're gone. Mara's voice was desperate. Or we overload the engines and push straight through. But if they break, we'll be cooked alive. Dr. Kane leaned forward, his eyes sharp. No, this is a test of sacrifice. The ship wants to know if we'll give up something to survive. The deck shook as the Odyssey slipped closer to the star. Heat blazed, panels melted. Mara's voice cracked. Captain, choose! We don't have time. Elias's eyes swept over his crew. His mind raced. We give it what it wants, he said finally. Not our lives, but everything else. Dump the cargo, the supplies, even the fuel reserves. We make the ship as light as possible, Mara gasped. Without supplies, we can't last the journey. We'll starve, Ray whispered. If we survive this, what's left of us? Elias's voice thundered. Better to starve tomorrow than burn today. Do it. The crew hesitated, then obeyed. Panels opened and the ship's stores were released into the void. Crates of food, water, spare parts, all jettisoned. The Odyssey lurched, lighter. Its engines roared louder as Ray pushed them to the limit. Slowly, painfully, the ship began to turn inch by inch. The flames clawed at them, but the nose pointed away. The crew held their breath as the Odyssey fought against the star's pull. The ship trembled, systems failing one after another. Sparks burst, smoke filled the air. Then with a deafening roar, the Odyssey broke free. The star shrank behind them, still raging, but no longer their grave. The crew collapsed into their seats. Gasping for air, Mara's voice was shaky. We did it, Ray laughed weakly. I thought we were done. Kane sat back, pale but smiling. We sacrificed everything. And it worked, the voice returned. But it was not cold this time. It was heavy, almost uncertain. You cast away all you had, yet you did not surrender. You gave what others clung to. You chose survival over comfort. Will over greed, Elias straightened, his voice strong, because we are human. We endure even when there is nothing left. That is our strength. For the first time, the great ship seemed to hesitate. Its lights flickered like uncertain eyes. The voice whispered softer than ever before. Perhaps I was wrong. Perhaps no is not the only answer. The space ahead split open. Forming a gate brighter than all before, the light poured across the Odyssey. Warm instead of cold, Mara stared in awe. Captain, it feels different. Elias nodded slowly. It's no longer just testing us. It's changing. The crew shared quiet looks, pride mixing with fear. They had survived storms, monsters, ghosts, and even the jaws of a dying star. They had given everything but their lives, and yet still they moved forward. Elias turned to his people, his voice calm but firm. Remember this, we came with nothing, and still we go on. That is what it means to be human. The Odyssey moved toward the new gate, its hull scorched, its stores empty, but its spirit unbroken. As they entered the light, the galaxy beyond whispered in silence, watching for the first time in ages. The gate of no had cracked, and in its cracks, something dangerous and powerful grew. Hope. The Odyssey glided through the final gate, its hull scorched, supplies gone, and the crew exhausted. But their eyes still burned with determination. Outside the windows, a strange calm spread across space. There were no stars, no storms, only an endless dark that seemed alive. Mara shivered as her fingers hovered over the controls. Captain, this isn't space, she whispered. It feels like we're inside. Something. Dr. Kane nodded slowly, his voice low. This is the heart. We've reached the center of the Guardian. Elias stood firm at the command deck. His eyes scanned the black void, waiting. The silence pressed on their chests like weight. Then the voice came, deeper and slower than ever before. You have faced storm, beast, shadow, and fire. You have given all, yet you still rise. If you ever reached this place, none endured. Why do you continue? The words echoed inside their heads. Elias answered without hesitation, because that is who we are. We don't stop, we don't bow, we don't wait for mercy. We endure until there is nothing left, the voice rumbled, almost uncertain. And if there is nothing left, not even life? Elias's voice was steel. Then we will die fighting. With our eyes open, the darkness shifted. A shape emerged, massive, endless, more a world than a ship. The Guardian revealed its core, a structure of burning light wrapped in chains of shadow. Each chain pulsed like veins. Holding the core in place, Mara gasped. "It's trapped," Dr. Kane whispered. "No, it's trapping itself." It bound its own heart. The voice grew heavier, filled with sorrow. "Long ago we gave everything. We saved, we built. But all fell into weakness. We feared the galaxy would rot. So we bound ourselves. We became the gate of no. Better silence than failure." Ray clenched his fists. "You punished everyone because of your fear." Elias stepped forward, his voice strong. "You think no is safe, but it killed more than it saved. You closed the gates, but all it did was leave the galaxy weaker. You forgot the truth. Struggle is not meant to end. It is meant to make us stronger." The Guardian trembled. The chains tightened. The crew felt the pressure crush against their skulls. "If I break the chains, chaos will return," the voice boomed. Elias raised his voice, defiant. "Or maybe hope will return. You've been saying no for ages. But it was never your choice to make. You are not a god. You are a guardian. And guardians are meant to protect, not rule." The void exploded with light. The chains around the core twisted violently. Beams of energy shot toward the Odyssey. Shaking it to the edge of breaking, Mara screamed. "Shields failing," Ray shouted. "We can't take this," Elias roared above the chaos. "Hold steady. This is the last trial. It wants to know if we will stand even as the sky falls." The light burned brighter. The crew held on as the Odyssey rattled apart. Sparks flew, smoke choked the air. But no one moved to flee. They stood together, defying the storm at last. The chains cracked one by one. They shattered into dust. The core of light pulsed free. Its glow filled the chamber, warm and vast. The storm ended. Silence returned. The voice spoke again. But now it was no longer cold. It was soft, almost human. "After ages, I see I was wrong. The answer is not always no. For the first time, I say yes." The black void split apart. Stars flooded back into view. A great gate opened, and treasures beyond imagination spilled across the airwaves. Knowledge, maps, technology older than the galaxy itself. But the humans did not cheer for the riches. They stared in awe at what they had changed. Mara whispered, tears in her eyes. It listened. It believed us. Ray laughed shakily. "We broke the unbreakable." Dr. Kane's voice shook with awe. "We made it say yes." Elias stood tall, his voice steady but filled with pride. "No, humanity made it say yes. Remember this moment, because it will echo across the stars." The Guardian's final words rang across the galaxy, carried to every listening race. Humanity has been tested and has endured. The gate of no is no more. I open my gates to them. Civilizations everywhere froze in shock. The impossible had happened. A silent god of ages had spoken, and it had chosen humanity. The Odyssey, battered and broken, sailed out of the Guardian's heart. They had no cargo, no supplies, and little fuel left. But they carried something greater, proof that even the oldest silence could be broken, that even the strongest no could be turned into a yes. As the stars stretched wide before them, Elias looked at his crew, his voice low but powerful. "We came with nothing, and we leave with everything. Not treasure, not weapons, but a truth. The universe will never forget that when the gate said no, humanity answered with yes." The crew smiled through their exhaustion, knowing they had done what no one else could. The galaxy watched, holding its breath, for the future had changed, and it began with one word, spoken at last. Yes,